Hang on. All right, my friends, welcome to episode 186 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I am
87.
God damn it, let me start again. I was looking at fucking 186 on the screen, so I just read it. All right, my friends, welcome to episode 187 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I am the Professor Larry at Prof Plays Games on Twitter, and over there is Anthony the Dev at Summer Speak. And Anthony, I have a gift for you.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Tonight, I am going to process and upload the podcast, even though it's your rotation, because I want you to watch Game of Thrones as soon as this podcast is over. As soon as humanly possible.
I can do that, and that's a great gift. I appreciate this gift.
You are welcome. I watched it. I was a fan, and looking forward to talking to you about what you think.
I'm curious what I think. It's only 6 episodes?
6 episodes the whole season, yep.
Okay.
So 5 more for the whole series.
I saw this one was just over an hour.
It was,
so.
Yeah. And I watched at the end, the behind-the-scenes kind of thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't usually watch that, so I was interested this time. So yeah, we will do some Game of Thrones spoiler cast next week. We will be 1 week off so that people can have a chance to watch, and then we both can catch up and be able to share our thoughts before we record. This week, we're going to start off actually with an interview with Tin Man Games. Tin Man Games has a game coming out on Tuesday for PSVR, which is called Table of Tales, which is basically like a tabletop kind of adventure game with a really interesting mechanic where, like, as you're moving through the adventure, things fold out of the table and fold back in, kind of like the intro to Game of Thrones. It looks really cool. So I talked to Neil Rennison, who is the creative director at Tin Man Games. He also is a founder, and he writes and designs, and he kind of seems like he wears all hats over there. So I had a really good interview with him. I'm going to start this podcast with his interview, so you can check out what he says about the game and hopefully get you hyped for the game as we are. We also have a code to give away, and I will be explaining how we are going to give away the code after the interview. So stay tuned after the interview, and I'll give you a chance to win that code for Table of Tales by checking out my Twitter and doing a few things. So we'll go off to the interview right now.
Listen!
All right, this is Larry here interviewing Neil Rennison from Tin Man Games. They have a new game coming out called Table of Tales, coming out for PSVR tomorrow as you're listening to this on April 16th. And we have him in here for a couple of questions. We're really happy to have you here. First question I wanted to ask you right off the bat, for those who haven't heard about Table of Tales, can you give us an introduction to your new game and also tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, my name's Neil Rennison. I've been running Tin Man Games for about 10 years. I've been in the games industry for, nearly 20 years. I used to be a 3D artist. I used to build racetracks for lots of racing games. So I did that for a long time, and then Tin Man Games has become my passion for the last 10. So Table of Tales is... so what's the best way to describe it? The best way to describe it is probably the original pitch that I gave to Sony way back when, which was, what if you took the movie Jumanji and you mix that with Dungeons and Dragons and chuck that into VR? So it's basically taking something like a tabletop role-playing game and using VR to be able to add a new dimension to it. So Table of Tales itself is a table that comes to life in front of your eyes. You have miniatures and dice, but instead of drawing on graph paper, the table does all the legwork for you and creates these wonderful vistas around on and take part in an epic adventure.
Well, I was already pretty hyped for that game, but that description there makes me even more excited. Looking forward to Tuesday for sure. So mentioning tabletop games there, obviously that's part of the inspiration for this game. Is there any insight into what mechanics like really worked well in this game and what mechanics really didn't make it or work well in this type of game?
So it's really interesting. If you'd have played the game 2 years ago and you'd seen all our prototype and things, the game was pretty crazy. We wanted to do all the things. Like we had machines that dispensed dice. Like you'd pull a crank down and the dice would fall out, and we had loads of different sort of gizmos that you could play with on the table that would do various things. And after much testing and playing around, they're great gimmicks and they were fun, but ultimately they didn't really add anything new to the experience. And in actual fact, we ended up getting rid of a lot of that stuff and really keeping it simple. And so the table itself the interactions are such that you can pick up miniatures, and it was very important to obviously pick up miniatures and move them around, and those miniatures need to feel like they're solid and that, feel like they've got some heft to them. There is two main mechanics in there, which are we have a card dispenser. So your characters in the game, they gain abilities, and their abilities are shown by little cards that the table produces in front of you. And obviously, picking up those cards and being able to play those cards on the table was very important. So the way you drag the card across and the way that interacts with the miniatures was super important. And then we have dice. The original game had lots of dice going on in it, but in the end we pared that down and ended up just using dice for skill checks, which work really, really well. We found that people got really tired of rolling dice in VR, which sounds really bizarre because you think, you just want to roll dice all the time, it'll be awesome. In actual fact, it's not fun. Like it actually detracts from the experience. We're trying to tell an exciting story here, and you want to make decisions. So in VR and not be tired of just rolling dice all the time. So
And is that the mechanic basically in using the move controller to do that?
Yeah, you use the moves. So basically, what happens is a skill check will appear, and these little dice will materialize, and the move controller becomes a wand in the game, and the dice kind of float around the wand almost like they're like moons orbiting a planet. So, and as you shake the move controller, these it's almost like they're on like elastic bands, and they kind of bounce around, and then as you release the move controller, they fling across the table and land. So it's a really lovely. We spent a lot of time getting that feeling really nice. So yeah, and it works really, really well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like a pretty satisfying mechanic.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing it all the time.
Yeah.
and so that's why we keep it to it.
Well, you sound pretty happy, and your launch day is just a couple days away. I'm wondering what the mood in the studio is these days, coming up to Tuesday.
It's funny. So at Tin Man, we've been making games for a while now, and we have this thing because we're a small team, and we punch way above our weight. So when you're trying to keep a small studio running, you always have to have multiple projects running. And we always have this joke in the studio that we can never enjoy our releases because we're too busy working on the next thing.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we're about to release this game, and look, everybody's super excited and super pumped. But they're also really, really busy working on our new thing, which I can't discuss, sadly.
Of course.
So it's kind of fun. We've got my colleague Amelia. She's dealing a lot with the press stuff, and for her especially, it's really exciting because obviously she's doing lots of the emails and the conversations about promoting the game at the moment. So she's having a lot of fun, but everybody else is on something else. But we'll definitely go and celebrate it. I think we're going to plan and we'll go out for dinner and do something to celebrate at some point in a few weeks' time.
Awesome. I'm glad you're able to take that time to do that because it's a pretty big moment, I assume. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the biggest game we've ever released. And most of in the past, we've been mainly a mobile studio, and then we released a few high-profile games on Steam, and then more recently, we brought our game, The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, to Nintendo Switch, which was kind of our first console release. So yeah, this is huge.
The buzz that I've seen online, just in different forums about this particular game, that's how I first heard about it, and then I saw on State of Play and saw a few other things, and it seems like there's a groundswell of enthusiasm for this type of game. So I'm very excited to touch it when Tuesday comes around, and especially
cool. It's a good thing.
Yeah, coming to VR, I think the VR audience is hungry for new and interesting games. And earlier you mentioned kind of pitching it maybe as a VR game. What about VR made it stand out as a good platform for Table of Tales?
So, look, a number of years ago, we released a game. I just mentioned it, The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, which was a digital board game reimagining of a classic 1980s choose your own adventure RPG book from the Fighting Fantasy series, written by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson. And so we'd been hovering around in this kind of tabletop space for a little while, producing, because Warlock is basically. It's the dungeon comes to life and you have a little miniature bouncing around, and there's turn-based combat with dice rolling and whatnot. And when we were coming to the end of the development on that project, VR was obviously on the up, and there was a lot of talk about it, and we all kind of said, "Oh, it'd be great if we could have put this into VR." And so, it culminated in me having a few conversations. One of them obviously ended up with Sony, and yeah, I think it's just the next logical step, really, that we could have done as our studio and with our tech and our tools. And I think looking at all the stuff that's going on in the space at the minute, it was also the next logical step for the medium. And I think it is a stepping stone to the future. I mean, we've got plans. I'm in discussions with various other partners about taking this even further beyond VR. I mean, you've got augmented reality and you've got mixed reality. There's lots of exciting technologies out there which I think would lend themselves really well to sort of tabletop role-playing games and tabletop, wargaming and all sorts of things.
Yeah, it seems like a really ripe area for that, where you don't have to have the physical stuff, but as long as you have a tabletop, you can kind of project it onto it. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really great, and also the fact that you've got things in digitally, you can actually do more. You can bring things to life a little bit more. I mean, I joke about the Jumanji thing. Look, we don't have elephants and rhinos crashing through the wall, sadly, in Table of Tales. But hey, wouldn't it be great if you could have elephants and rhinos crashing through your wall? You can see your living room wall. You're playing a game. And you invoke the wrath of a dragon, and all of a sudden his head bursts through the wall to your right. I mean, that's where we really want to go, right? We want to kind of bring these things to life in crazy ways. So
some of those ideas, I think, come across or come out in the iteration process when you're making a game, and things kind of bubble up, and you maybe can't fit them in the game you're working on, but maybe ideas for other games. My podcast partner, who's not here right now, is a game dev, and he always talks about iteration in his games. And I want to ask this question for him. What was the iteration process like during the development of this game?
I think I kind of alluded it a little bit earlier on, which was like we tried to do all the things. We wanted to, have all this functionality and have all these cool things to play with on the table. And we also wanted a cool story, and we wanted it to feel like an actual tabletop role-playing game as well. And I think as we iterated through a lot of the process, the creative process, a lot of the times is actually getting rid of 90% of the stuff. And I think this project is very typical of that, in that our early ambitions for it, we had some crazy ideas to add certain features in and do certain things, and over time, for different reasons, for playability reasons, usability, but also financial reasons and technical reasons, because the different platforms, you kind of want to do all this stuff, and then actually, especially with VR, it's really important that you don't make people throw up.
Yes, thank you. Those nauseous among us.
Exactly, and so frame rate is super important. And so if you're doing anything that is really putting a strain on the system, you kind of can't do those things. And so you have to either be clever about implementing those things, or maybe scaling down your ambitions a little bit. And sometimes, again, that plays into budgets and times and resource, because sometimes to be able to get some of the bigger things that you want to do, if you want to get those working, that requires a lot of investment into trying to find ways to do that cheaply. And I don't mean financially, but cheaply in terms of processing time for the the tech, the kit that you're using. So yeah, it's just, you're just kind of chipping away at this thing and constantly reevaluating what you can produce and what you want to do. A good example, I think, is our multiplayer mode. We actually do have a little multiplayer where one person wears a helmet and other people sit around using DualShock controllers.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so it basically, you put on the headset and you can see more than the people sat on the couch with their DualShock controllers can see on the TV, and it's a bit of a cat and mouse game of you trying to do. There's a couple of different modes in there. They're kind of like mini games. And look, originally we had these goals to have this full on experience that would be we wanted to make something where you would be able to, it would be more akin to playing D&D with your friends, and having the dungeon master with his dungeon master screen, would be able to hide a lot of information. But in reality, that it just wasn't possible to do that. And the important thing for us was building up the technology and making a compelling game that people would want to play. So we ended up going strongly down the single player route for that reason.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the multiplayer side of it became a kind of a playground for us to try out some ideas, and some of those ideas ended up in the final game. So
awesome. You kind of brought the D&D angle, and a lot of people, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but also online, some of the comments are just like this fervent desire for it to be like to recreate the D&D experience, which I don't think it completely does from what I understand. But for people who are coming in wanting that kind of D&D experience, what might they expect, or what might surprise them about this game?
So, I mean, from the first off, VR as it stands at this moment in time is a very lonely experience, and Dungeons and Dragons is a very social experience. So, right. Firstly, that's the differentiation. So, when you're in our game, it's basically it's you and against the table. Or you against the games master. We have a games master, by the way, and her name's Arbitrix. She's a little mechanical bird. So you do have company in the game, and she flies around the table and narrates the story to you. But it's you against the table, and that's really, really important. It's a story. It's an adventure game. So that from the first off, you're not going to get. I've seen those comments too, where people, they want it all, and I want it all too.
Right. It sounds exciting, but
yeah. It's that thing where we can't have the social interaction just yet. But I would strongly think that if anybody's into tabletop role playing games, D&D, and they kind of like the whole VR thing, I think they're going to love it, because it will give them their own personal experience of something that hasn't, I don't think, and it kind of gives a little bit of a hint to the future, and I hope it's a really big hint, and I'd love to think that we're part of that future too. So,
well, and for me, buying into VR probably 6 or 7 months ago, this is the type of game that I was interested in, like to have a tabletop gaming experience on my own, because a lot of my friends are not local. Just sounds like a dream. So thank you for making it.
No worries.
So just kind of to wrap up here, 2 more questions for you. What are your favorite tabletop games in general? What are your favorite video games? What are you playing?
So tabletop games, when it comes to that, it's basically what I can play with my family. I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, so we've been playing board games for years. So we play a lot of stuff at home, and I've always pushed the kids on playing stuff that's not just kid games. So we play a lot of things like we've played Catan. We play a lot of Splendor, Machikoro, obvious things like Ticket to Ride and King of Tokyo and things like that. We've just started playing a new game that I got my wife for Christmas called Photosynthesis. I don't know whether you've heard of it.
I've never heard of that, no.
It's very good. You grow trees, and you have to block out the light from your opponents so their trees don't grow. And it's like there's these little cardboard trees you have to build and place around the board, and it's we're really into that. We're loving that game at the moment.
I love that idea. That's different, but still sounds pretty fun.
Oh, it is really good. You have to. The sun rotates around the board, so every turn the sun goes around.
Oh, wow.
So the angle of shadow, and it's really great for my daughter because she's learning about sun and photosynthesis. She's learning about what happens and the angle of the shadows, trajectory, and angles, and all these kind of things. It's really, really great. Video game wise, what am I playing video game wise? Because I do I commute into the city every day. I kind of play stuff on iPads and whatever. Sadly, I don't get much time for kind of couch console stuff. And I love football manager games like soccer, as you call it over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really into. I love management games and Sims and things.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I really want to thank you for your time. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you or that you haven't talked about that you want to let our audience know about?
Is there anything else? Just to keep watching this space with where we go and what we do next. We're working on a really exciting new project, which obviously I can't discuss, but Table of Tales was a very big read. It's a licensed project as well, which is very exciting. And I can say that Table of Tales was a very big thing in order for us to get that license and start working on that. So there's some very exciting things to come.
Well, that sounds really exciting. Very good. Congratulations on the launch coming up. Again, this is Table of Tales coming out for PSVR April 16th, which is the day after this launches. Looking forward to it. And thank you, Neil, so much for your time today.
No worries. Take care.
Listen.
All right. That was a pretty awesome interview. I am definitely hyped for Table of Tales. And I want to tell everyone how they could win a code. I have a code to give away. We're going to give it away next week. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to go to my Twitter, which is Prof Plays Games. And at the top, there's going to be some information about how to win the code. But I'll tell you right now, basically what I would like you to do is to take a screenshot of your phone with a subscription to the Prof and Dev Play Games podcast. So if you tweet that at me and then also at Summer Speak, throughout the week, we will collect all the names of the people who are tweeting us subscriptions to our podcast, and then at the end of the week, we will do a random number generator pull, and we will pull a code for one person. So again, this is for PSVR, this is for Table of Tales, and you just need to tweet at me, which is Prof Plays Games, and at Anthony, which is at SummerSpeak, a picture or a screenshot of your phone, subscribe to our podcast, and we will draw randomly next week a code to give away for that game. So thanks for subscribing, and hopefully we'll see you on Twitter. So why don't we get started with the news of the week? What do you got for us?
What I got, I mean, my big weekend and what I've been basically having on in the background has been a Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, nice.
And the big news out of there was the first story trailer for the next Star Wars game by Respawn, Jedi Fallen Order. And there's been some big things about it that they're first, it's Unreal 4, not Frostbite.
That's pretty awesome.
But it's also not Source, what Apex is on.
Right.
So they're shifting to Unreal, I assume. So if they're not doing this game in Source, which I originally thought it was going to be because of the speed that they were getting it out.
Right.
Clearly not. They are an Unreal Engine game now. If there's a Titanfall 3 in development, potentially, I would not be surprised if it's also on Unreal at this point.
Well,
and they're just shifting their whole team to that.
Right. They mentioned earlier in the year that there would be more Titanfall news toward the end of the year, so that would make sense. What I'm curious from a dev perspective is if they've been using Source for, I think it was Titanfall was on Source, but Titanfall 2 certainly was, and Apex is.
Yeah, it was those 3 games.
Oh, okay. So in parallel, when would they have the other team doing Unreal stuff? Like, do they switch the team?
Well, it sounds like this is not the same team that was working on Apex. Like, they had a separate team working on this Star Wars game.
And you're not really pulling people off one team to like kind of shore up the other team if you're doing two different like engines,
usually
right?
Not. Sometimes you might, just because there's good quality people. Maybe some art could switch back and forth, and a good generalized programmer could switch between the two pretty commonly. But ideally, they have a well-run studio and they can properly allocate their resources as needed.
Right.
It seems like it, since the news for the Star Wars game is it's coming out November 15th this year. So that's not too far away. 7 months? Yeah, 7 months. So pretty exciting about that. But like, watching the trailer and everything, I'm on board, and I'm ready for a really good story-driven Star Wars game. But man, the emphasized constantly through pre-Twitter and marketing, this is a single-player, story-driven experience with no microtransactions.
So I think there's the obvious reason why to do that, but why? And I think the obvious reason is just to differentiate it from kind of the narrative that EA's been building lately.
EA's been building, and Battlefront 2.
Right.
The last Star Wars game was pretty much panned completely because of its aggressive microtransaction.
Right. So do you think this aggressive marketing right now is just to kind of erase that narrative, like really to just pound it in like this is not like that game, or is there a different reason why this is happening?
I think one, it's that, and then I think the reason why they're marketing so hard is because of the EA perception that everything has to be somehow multiplayer, a service-based game. This is clearly not going to be a service-based game. And trying to push back that that's the only thing that EA makes, because people have been saying like that's all that EA makes. Even EA has said that's what they're making in the future.
Well, they're basically trying to make everything FIFA in terms of revenue.
Exactly, but for whatever reason, Respawn was like, no, we're doing this.
I wonder if, and maybe you can speak to this, the contract that they signed when EA bought Respawn, does it have something in there that says that we have autonomy over our engine or over how things are monetized? Does
honestly,
EA
honestly, so when PopCap was bought, we had autonomy.
Right.
We didn't sign anything that said we had to use this engine or this service or anything. But there's pressure to use those things.
Does the royalty for the engine, like Unreal, come out of like Respawn's budget, or is that covered by EA in general?
Who knows how
the same
that's
thing?
gonna work? I'm sure EA probably has some, or Respawn got some different deal with Epic. The big AAAs work out special stuff, but even if they didn't, it's 5% of gross. So it's hard to say how that's all working out. For me, it just sounds like you have really strong leadership at Respawn. It's like, no, we're doing this.
Right.
Here's our reasons for using this, and who knows what those are, and they're just sticking to their guns. I mean, like, this is how we're going to make a successful game.
Well, I wonder if, like, basically making that same kind of argument for Apex Legends, and then Apex Legends comes out and just does gangbusters, then that makes the leadership at Respawn look like they're right. You know, like, just leave them alone, let them do what they want to do.
And honestly, in a big company, those big companies like that, that's if you continue to release and have success, you can do whatever you want.
They'll leave you alone. Well,
yes, as soon as you start not hitting those numbers that you promise, and let's be honest, it should be clear, you promise those numbers.
Yeah.
EA doesn't tell you the numbers. They ask you, what are your numbers? What do you say you're going to do?
Well, that's something that kind of hit BioWare, basically, right? Like, they were doing well, and then all of a sudden, MEA and Anthem, not so much. So I feel like the grip gets tighter from the corporate overhead or whatever.
Yeah, and it totally does, which then makes it harder to make a successful product and the whole thing. Like, it all just starts falling apart.
Exactly.
But right now, Respawn is in the clear. They've had success with Apex, and they get to have freedom to do the Star Wars game, which they couldn't have been working on before they were purchased by EA.
Right, they didn't have the license.
They didn't have the license. Maybe they had something they could have pitched and said, hey, we want to do this thing. We have an idea for it, and we can get it done in this amount of time.
That's really quick if it started when they were bought. Because they were bought, what, a year ago? 2 years ago?
2, I think, at this point. I could check again.
Well, you're right, because the last EA was when Zampella made the announcement from the EA Play audience, basically. And they were probably bought a year before that, or so.
Yeah, when were they bought? They were bought in December 1st, 2017.
So not even 2 years, and this game comes out.
year and a half. So there's a good chance that they had started prototyping it earlier.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's when it was finalized. Who knows when they started talking to EA?
I wonder if
those things usually take like 6 months to go through a deal like that. So there's a good chance that they were like, hey, this was part of something they were talking to EA about wanting to do, because EA has the rights to do Star Wars games, PC and console games.
Right.
And this was all part of that talk with purchase. Was like, hey, and we want to do this. It looks really cool, and here's our prototype, which from the panel had wall running to begin with.
Oh, nice. So that's where the wall running went.
It's confirmed that wall running was one of the first things that they put in.
That's pretty awesome. But I wonder if there's if the contract allows, or if EA does something like subcontracting, sub-licensing, basically, like we own the license for Star Wars for 10 years or whatever, but we want to contract a different studio to make the game. So maybe that was happening before.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they could have done that.
Yeah.
They could get a third party to do it.
So that makes sense that maybe that was going on a little bit before, because that seems 2 years seems short.
It does seem short.
So let's real quick before we get more into like the marketing, the microtransactions, or lack of thereof, not lack of multiplayer. What about the game? Like, talk to me about what the game's about, because I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, so I kind of like looked at it sideways.
So it's set 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, which is the episode 3. It's basically for the uninitiated, it's the final mini movie of the prequel trilogy, where the Emperor rises up and takes control. The Republic falls. The Jedi are wiped out. They're purged. And we are now 5 years past that point, and any remaining Jedi that survived the purge are basically in hiding at this point. They don't want to show their powers. They don't want to do anything, because if they do, they'll be marked and killed. This follows a young Jedi who was never, as far as they've told in the panel, is not a Jedi Knight. He was a Padawan. He was a trainee, and he just avoided dying. And so he has untrained Force powers for the most part. And he's just living out part of like a salvage guild, just kind of ripping apart Star Destroyers, wrecked military stuff, repurposing the metal and the materials. And at some point, he uses his power to do something, save a person, instinctively, and gets marked by, during this time period, the Inquisitors, which are Imperial.
The red eye thing.
No, that's a purge trooper. It's a stormtrooper that can kind of fight Jedi, but they don't have Force powers. It's the female, black masked female, has like a very triangular masked face.
Mm-hmm.
That's an Inquisitor.
Oh, okay.
That's the second sister. There's not a ton of them. That's why they can all be named like second sister. I think Star Wars Rebels was the seventh sister. There's not a ton, but basically they are Imperial Force users who are hunting down the last Jedi and killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like she's the main villain in this game. Right. And basically it looks like you're just going on as you run a path of discovery of getting a lightsaber, learning your powers. You meet other surviving Jedi and kind of get a small group together to help mentor you through. And that's really all they've shown in the trailer. Who knows what else? You get a lightsaber at some point. But it does sound from the panel that you'll get your lightsaber. The lightsaber is something you can modify as the game goes on. So there's some form of progression to it. And it's supposed to be meaningful combat. So I'm reading into that as Dark Souls light, potentially.
Yeah, I kept hearing that this weekend.
Parry focused gameplay, not Force Unleashed, just throw Force powers around, and not God of War style, like not new God of War, the first 3 God of Wars, where it's much more just button mashy type combat. It sounds like this is supposed to be third person. A lot of parrying, dodging, knowing what Force powers you should be using and how you should be approaching each fight. So maybe Witcher-like as well in that regard, maybe.
Right. Yeah, the story. I watched the trailer a couple times. I heard you talk about it. I just can't. There's no schema for me. There's no hooks. But if it is an interesting story based on reviews or based on you playing through it, like it's something that I would be interested in checking out.
Yeah.
But something about Star Wars just can't get me. I've been trying to watch The Last Jedi. Is that the second movie?
Yeah.
Just over and over on Netflix, and I just can't. I'm like halfway through it right now. I don't know. I feel like a failed nerd. I really just can't get into it. But
That's fine.
I want to, just because I want to be conversant in it, right? And I don't know. I feel like I should have gone to the theater because I went to see I saw Rogue One, which I really liked, and I saw the first of this trilogy, which was Force Awakens, yeah, in the theater. So I kind of wasn't a captive audience, so I couldn't leave. So I was able to stick with it. But if I'm given the choice, I feel like
I still just need to sit down. We should just watch. I will watch The Last Jedi through a stream with you at some point.
I think
so that you have to have someone there.
It's seriously, that's what it's going to take. Is either you and I doing that, or Brad duct taping me to a chair and making me watch it. But I think, because the new trailer came out, and I obviously tried not to listen to anything about it or watch it or anything like that. But the general feedback, it felt like, wasn't that positive. Is that true? Or
for the new trailer?
Yeah.
It was super the people I thought was super positive.
Okay, cool.
Like, people losing their shit over certain parts of that teaser, because it's really just a teaser.
Yeah.
But
when's it supposed to come out?
December this year.
Okay, so I have time to watch.
There'll be another. They usually put out like a full trailer end of summer, August, September-ish time frame.
Okay.
But I mean, this was a 2-minute teaser, so
pretty long teaser.
It is a long thing for a teaser, but isn't. You asked me what the story is. I have no clue what the story is.
Yeah.
Like, it was shots of cool things and characters. That's about it. And then one very iconic laugh at the very end.
I heard about that.
That made everyone lose their shit.
Does anyone sit on the Iron Throne in that teaser trailer?
No.
Oh, okay.
No one sits on the Iron Throne.
And that's probably how the whole series is going to end anyways, for Game of Thrones. No one's going to sit on that throne.
Better.
Anyway.
Yeah, I am very versed in Star Wars and very much enjoyed this weekend. And
awesome.
That trailer for Episode 9, Fallen Order, and then today was stuff on The Mandalorian, which is a live-action TV show starting November 12th, actually.
Oh,
so within a month.
What station?
Disney Plus.
Oh, duh. Okay, that makes sense. Are they launching with that?
Yeah.
Oh, smart.
And it looks incredible. Like, as cinematically filmed as Game of Thrones, honestly. Like, so much money going into this thing, and it looks much more like a Western / Kurosawa samurai film than anything. Like, it just has that vibe to it of, like, lawlessness, and it's the outer rim of the universe, and it's set after Return of the Jedi a few years. Basically when the Empire's been destroyed, but no other government has come in yet. So there's a lot of, it's a very chaotic and lawless time for the universe.
Right, power vacuum.
There's a big power vacuum, and that's where they've set it, just following this one lone gunman who is played by Pedro Pascal.
Who is that?
You know him from Game of Thrones.
I do? Oh, no.
Oberyn Martell.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's
Mandalorian.
That gets me a little excited.
Yeah. And they don't have him talking or anything, but basically it says you may never see his face. It seems like he's in his, mask the entire time.
Oh, okay.
But he does talk. But yeah, it looks... I was skeptical about it, but it looks really incredible, made by a bunch of people that just love Star Wars, and tons of really good directors with what I really like. They showed off a huge diversity of directors for the episodes. Because I feel like, it's Jon Favreau and white dude doing it. It's like, well, he's doing one, and there's Chow doing one, she's doing an episode, Taika Waititi's doing an episode, New Zealand director who did Thor Ragnarok. He's really good.
Was he related to Flight of the Conchords at all?
I have no clue. Maybe.
It's pinging in my brain for some reason.
And then there was a African American director too in there. It was quite a very clearly they went out and we want a diversity of directors and writers on this.
Yeah.
So that bodes well for it going a lot of places story-wise that will surprise me, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like gives an opportunity to make the story pop, just to have something that's a different perspective for people who are used to a certain perspective can be quite surprising.
Oh no, and and people always talk about like, why do you want diversity in your media? I'm like, because it surprises me.
Yeah, exactly. We get something different.
I like stories that surprise me and show me new things, and that's kind of how you do it.
Yep, exactly. So overall for you, Fallen Order, is this a day one? Is this a
it's probably a day one for me, and I don't think I'd subscribe to EA.
Oh, okay.
I did see someone's tweet here on the whole single player stuff, which was like, hey, if you really want to support and you want more single player non-microtransaction games,
buy the goddamn game, right?
You gotta buy the game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can't rent it. You can't buy it and return it. You can't really buy it used. Like, there's a reason why all this stuff went to multiplayer and having service-based.
Right.
Because those are games that are hard to do any of those things with.
Right, even a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where they just keep giving you content, like, on a really fast cadence. Like, there's no way to get away from that game right now. There's no way to put it down.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if people really do care about single-player games without all this nickel and diming in them, you got to put up the money.
Right. Vote with your wallet.
Yeah, and if you don't, then they're going to go away, or they're going to become much more marginalized. And you'll only see stuff that are really backed out of, like, Sony right now.
Yeah, and I feel like it's easy to vote with your wallet, or for some people, I suppose, when it's the negative. Well, I'm going to vote with my wallet by not buying that. It's easy to save that money. But to vote with your wallet and purchase something for $60 day one to support that thing, I think is harder for people to do. But it's almost like that cash mob mentality where, like, you want to support something and just flood them so they can feel like this is something of value that people want to continue to see.
And you have to prove the market.
You do, and I think that it's going to, I mean, obviously some people are going to buy it based on the Star Wars alone and single player and no microtransactions or whatever, but also those reviews, when they start popping up, and it's just like, if it is, like, stellar, like, if you think about Titanfall 2 critical reception, that or more, like, it's going to start selling. It's going to be hard to stay away from it, so people want to be part of the zeitgeist, especially in the fall when it's getting close to the movie. There's a ton of Star Wars hype, I think, at that point of the year.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to hit. Like I said, you have The Mandalorian on November 12th.
Which is 3 days before this movie.
Fallen Order, which is 1 month before Episode 9.
What a great cadence. Just show, 3 days later, game, and then a month later, movie.
And the last movie for many years.
Really?
They've said that. Like, once Episode 9 comes out, there won't be a Star Wars movie. They're putting it on... there won't be another movie in the definite future. It will be 3-4 years.
Not even like those one-offs like Solo.
Nope.
That's good.
Because Solo crashed hard.
Oh yeah.
Which I saw it. I was not impressed.
It was just too much.
I guess it was too much. But even if you had waited, I just don't care about that story.
Yeah.
It's just not like, I don't need to know like a detailed backstory of Han Solo. It's much more interesting to me when Han Solo is a bit mysterious.
Yeah.
Like everything doesn't need to be told. Like hopefully that's what they learn. It's like, no, don't need to tell me everything. It's okay. I don't need to get all the references of why does he have this blaster? Why does he have these dice? I don't care. Let me have some imagination and I can come up with it myself.
I feel like that's why Rogue One did better, because it took an event more than people, I think. And just it was new people, new story, and then they're all, spoiler, dead at the end.
Yeah. I mean, they could even have been alive, but it was still more interesting to me because you said an event, and it was all new characters.
Yeah.
Like, which is fine. It doesn't really tie... You're not looking for some super detailed, like, Easter egg hunt of, like, oh, they're going to tell me, like, Solo
who
thing
shot
that got
first
me.
Or whatever.
Yeah, like, Solo thing got me. It's like, there's, like, one line in Empire Strikes Back where C-3PO complains about the Millennium Falcon, like, wow, your ship has a strange dialect or something. Like, why does it talk that? Its main computer talk. And they basically, in Solo, show you why it does. And I'm like, why are you telling me one stupid line? Like, a whole plot thread so I know one line from a future movie that is more entertaining if I don't know exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't improve the rest of the movies. That's the thing. I'm like, any of these solo movie, like standalone movies, need to improve the movies around them. That one did not.
It's almost like mega fans wanted to get in there and have some say in the canon, or like have a fingerprint on the canon, basically.
Yeah.
C-A-N-N-O-N. No, C-A-N-O-N. Shit, I should not spell this. The one that doesn't shoot things.
Yeah. But either way, it's good that they'll just take a break. There's the they still, like, the head of Disney was very still clear that Rian Johnson, who did The Last Jedi, is still working on his trilogy, and Benioff and Weiss are working on their movie.
Right, and those are years away.
Yeah, and they're going to do them later, and they're not going to be attached to any of the characters and whatever is there now. Like,
I feel like the media, the visual media that you want to follow up on Star Wars are probably going to continue to do TV stuff probably.
Yep,
on
there's
Disney
The Mandalorian, and then there's going to be... you watched Rogue One, so you remember who Cassian Andor was?
No.
The Hispanic actor.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting his name now. I should know it because he's in a bunch of stuff. They're doing a TV show with him. And then
on that character?
Yeah, on that character.
Okay.
Before he dies.
Yeah,
So
I figured
a while ago.
It's not an exploration of life after death.
No. But it's
and then the robot too.
In the robot, Alan Tudyk was announced at Celebration that he would be reprising his role of K2SO.
Okay, so those characters are dead, but they are still resurrecting them. Okay.
They are going to resurrect them to do, a TV show with them for Disney Plus as well in the next couple years.
Well, it's exciting, but at the same time, part of the good thing that I liked about Rogue One was they're like, we built these great characters and we weren't afraid to kill them. But now now you're going to see all the stuff that Cassian did before taking that final mission and dying. Hopefully it's not like a solo thing like you were just describing.
I hope not, but I don't think they have enough Easter eggs with him.
Yeah, really. That's true. Yeah, no, not at all.
It's really, you just get to watch basically a rebellion spy TV show, which
sounds
could
pretty
be cool.
good.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well, to be honest, I don't know if this is whatever, sacrilege or blasphemy or whatever, but to be honest, Rogue One is probably the only Star Wars movie that I would rewatch. It was really entertaining, so to have more about those characters is not a bad thing for me.
I don't think it's sacrilegious. It's not my favorite, but I enjoy parts of that one a lot. But there's parts of it that I'm like, that kind of bug me. Not in a like this ruins it, just more in a like, this is crafted really strange right here. Why is it? Oh, because it got completely reshot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They had a lot of trouble in that movie. They brought in a second director who did a bunch of like
they redid stuff, right?
Yeah, they redid a lot
for Last Jedi, right?
No.
Oh, Rogue One.
Really? Rogue One is a very different movie than originally was presented to Disney.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like the director there was another director brought in, and that it sounds like a very large chunk of that movie was reshot.
Oh, so they had to bring the actors back in and redo stuff.
Yeah, and not with the original director.
Oh, dang. Okay.
But not enough that he legally was removed as the director of the movie.
Yeah.
However, whatever the Directors Guild, whatever those rules are. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty clear that some dude at least directed an additional 40% of that movie.
So I enjoyed it.
No, I enjoy the movie. There's a lot that I do enjoy in it. There's just some weird parts where I wish that weren't in the movie, that they would have spent more time with different characters. Right. Like it's too. I'll just be like, parts of it, like especially the beginning, I find way too jumpy. I would have really liked them to just stick to like Jen and Cassian's characters, like exclusively at the beginning, not jumping to like the pilot and these other, like it just jumped around a lot. I was like, I just want more time with these characters. I think the movie would have been stronger.
I feel that way about Game of Thrones right now.
Yeah, they're in such a bad place when it comes to that, though.
I mean, they're screwed. I mean, the source material
There's
is
so
such that
many characters.
Yeah, they left so many on the cutting room floor. So anyway, we'll talk about Game of Thrones next week. But overall, your thumbs up on the Fallen Order.
I am thumbs up on Fallen Order, and I hope it does well. So EA will do more single player games, or at least allow them to happen more often.
Right.
Because it's... did you read the article on Dragon Age 4?
I skimmed it and then listened to Schreier talk about it on split screen.
Just makes me sad.
Yeah, basically rolling it into a live service game, which we don't know what that means exactly, but they basically want to have the monetization tail.
They scrapped the other thing, though, that had already been in development, which was the one I was excited for.
Yeah.
I was so excited for that game.
Well, that's the one that Laidlaw had his hands on.
Yeah, and that's the one Laidlaw left after they scrapped it.
Right, exactly.
That's why he quit.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want the game that you want us to make is not a game I'm interested in making.
Right.
Like, I want to make this, like, spies going into the this evil empire and having to pull off heists and stuff. It just sounded awesome. It sounded very much like the fantasy game I want, which is about saving the world.
Hopefully he's bringing something of that to, I think he's at Ubisoft Montreal or Quebec. I can't remember where he's at.
Yeah, he's in
Ubisoft somewhere.
Yeah, he's in one of the Canadian Ubisoft studios.
Yeah. So, which, I mean, they've been fucking hitting out of the park lately. So,
yeah.
So really one of my favorite devs. But anyways, so anything else on Fallen Order?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Why don't we roll into what we've been playing? And I've got a short list, so I'll go first. I've been playing AC Odyssey. I just, again, every time I boot up PS4, think about playing something, I just scroll over to Odyssey and turn it on before I even get a chance to look at something else. And just tooling around the world doing random stuff. Really, I'm trying to do the DLC, the first DLC package, because I want to roll through that so I'm ready for Atlantis on the 23rd, which it's the 14th now, so it's not going to happen because I decided to go kill cultists instead. Because I realized I actually have not rolled credits on this game because I haven't killed the cultists yet. So I've got 4 or 6 left. But there's one cultist that's like, you have to initiate I forget what it's called, but the two sides fighting each other at the battlefield part of the whatever, I forget what that's called, but in an area that I actually haven't even set foot on. So I had to go there and do a bunch of stuff in order to the conquest battle to get that going. So that's one guy I got to go after, and a couple ship people, and then eventually get to the ghost, I think it is.
Do it. Finish it.
That's my goal. I'm trying to get there. Obviously I know who the ghost is already, or at least I think I do. So probably 6 more to go. Probably another, maybe 6 hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I just keep sidetracked again, like always.
I have to worry, because you now freaked me out. I'm like, all right, I changed my PSN name.
Oh shit, that's right, you did. I forgot we could do that.
I have logged into other games, and all my shit is still there. So I'm not but I'm like, of course I'm gonna log into like the one game I really care about, and it's all just gonna be gone.
I'm following like threads online about people doing it and just like seeing what their experience is and waiting for it to blow up. And so far, everyone's like, nope, everything's fine.
I assume so. Like at this point,
it's been a week right now, so I think I will probably safely change my name soon.
I'm actually SummerSpeak now.
Nice, congratulations.
Finally.
Well, I am going to. I'll just say it now since it doesn't go up till tomorrow. I'm going to turn on my PS4 tonight and try to get Prof Plays games. And if I can, great. If I can't,
I should have done that. That'd have been hilarious.
Then I would have gotten SummerSpeak and pissed you off. Switch each other. Or SummerSpeak sucks. That's what I would have done.
There you go.
So I've been playing that. And then on my Switch, my wife wanted to play some Baba Is You again. She said, can we play that fun puzzle game? So we sat on the couch and did a few puzzles. And some really hard ones. And, trying to like get her to give me some ideas, and she gave some ideas, I gave some ideas, and kind of went back and forth and eventually puzzled it out. But the last like final stretch of this one puzzle was basically me like trying something different and like something off the wall, and it was actually the solution, because this game basically presents you a puzzle and there's a really obvious path, which is almost always the wrong one. So she was like, God, I want to be able to beat the puzzle. Like I want to be able to do it by myself. So I went to the next world and said, try this one. She puzzled for a while. Then she gave it to me, and I turned away from her and tried to do it, and I beat it. And I was like, okay, you can definitely do this. Gave it back to her, didn't tell her anything that I did, and she beat it in a totally different way. And when she beat it, I think she said something like, God, that feels so great, or I really enjoyed how that felt, like getting that puzzle, like really figuring it out. And I was like, that feeling that you're feeling right now is the feeling that I have every time I play a video game. Like, that's the feeling that I'm chasing every time I'm playing a video game. So it really helped her kind of understand why I love this hobby. And then the last thing that I played, Jesus fucking Christ, I loaded up Celeste and decided let's try the B-sides of the first world. And I swear to God, I didn't get past the first screen.
Are you out of practice?
I'm out of practice. Took me a while to figure out the buttons again, and I'm like, how do I do this? I'm really about half an hour on one screen, and I thought, holy shit. Okay, now this game is really hard. So that's kind of a fun challenge, but maybe a little too much of a challenge right now. And that's, I think, all that I've been playing.
I bounced around a lot. I've been talking about wanting good, like, single-player story. I want a good single-player story RPG in the vein of, like, a D&D type game.
Dude, Divinity of Sin 2.
I know. I have just realized that, actually, tonight. I was like, we still have that. I should play that.
I own it.
Why am I not playing that? But I was bouncing around. I'm like, and just installing old ones I never played. So like Neverwinter Nights 2, and I downloaded a bunch of like quality of life mods for it, and it's fine. But it makes me realize why I don't like 3rd edition D&D at all anymore. There's just so many options and so many ways to go wrong. Right. But it's Obsidian writing, and so it's pretty good. So I put some hours into that, and was like, okay, that's not scratching the itch. What else did I briefly... Oh, I briefly tried Fallout 2 again. Nope, won't do it.
the doesn't hold up mechanically?
It's just... It doesn't... Not that it holds up. It's actually just really hard graphically to play on a modern... There's some, like, high-res mods and tried those, but then the UI is super tiny, and it's, yeah. So I just couldn't get it to feel right. I was like, okay, guess I'm just not going to play anything like this right now. But you're right. Original Sin 2. Let's play that.
I'm in the same area where I keep wanting to play like a D&D game, and then obviously I just keep playing Odyssey. But I scrolled through Divinity Original Sin 2, and I think, no, I'm playing with Anthony. So I don't know how we're going to square that circle, if we're going to continue or we're going to do separate or what.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. So, yeah, I just jumped around there. Eventually was just like, screw it, I'm just going to click monsters, and played some more Grim Dawn. Which I just put out. I'm like, I don't even care. I'm just clicking things and getting through changing environments and levels. The game has an insane amount of content at this point. Like, just truly ridiculous amount of content for an action RPG. Even if it's not the most best-looking action RPG out there. But you just want content. This is the game for you. With your stats getting bigger and lots of loot. And I don't even think you can get legendary items until you get to level 50. Which I'm, like, 47 now. So, and I haven't even touched the new expansion. Like, it had a whole new area, and I haven't even got to that yet.
So you're still just base game?
Yeah. No, I'm now in the first expansion.
Oh, okay.
Shadows of Malmuth, something like that. Whatever. I'm in that expansion once I finish there. Although you can go to the second expansion pretty much as soon as you've beat Act 1 if you wanted to. But I figured it's supposed to be played in order. I don't know, though. So I was just screwing around there. I probably put another 5-6 hours into that, just clicking around. And then actually one of the things I've been playing, and I was just trying to get a really good handle on, because I talked about it last week, I've been playing Elder Scrolls Blades more, just to try to understand it more. My one review is, timers suck. This is a game of timers.
And is it, like, overbearing?
Yes. It's like everything is a timer. Everything. You want to open a chest? That will be an hour wait. You want to craft an item? That'll be 20 minutes. You want to enhance your armor? That will be 2 hours. You want to build a new building in your town? That will be another chunk of time. It's just timers and timers and timers. There's no stamina system like a lot of free-to-play games have. So you could always go in and run through quests and do quests while you're waiting for things, but I will still say that the actual quests themselves are really hollow. It was something I've messed with it really for the last couple nights. I'm not going to mess with it even tonight. I'm done. But just trying to understand, and it's just like, it's more, the combat is more involved than I care about for a phone game, but it's not quick enough that it's unobtrusive. Like, I have to be really paying attention, and things can take a while. It can take, like, quests can take 10 plus minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, and so I'm like, I don't know. It feels like such a mess for the mobile market. It doesn't feel like it has a lot going for it, and it really just pushes in on those timers for everything.
Well, it's interesting considering how Fallout Shelter did buzz-wise. I've heard literally nothing about this except for one piece on the Game Informer podcast, which was basically not so great.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, like, the Fallout Shelter had timers and stuff, but it was just like a quick clicker game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could just have it up, and there was just stuff that you could be doing. It wasn't like a huge focus suck.
Uh-huh.
You didn't have to focus a ton on it, but you could have fun just clicking around, collecting different things as your vault produces things, and it was just like light sim management in a lot of ways.
Right.
This game is trying to
right?
trend not as light as that, and it kind of falls apart, but not heavy enough where I care. That's the problem. It's just not finding that line really well. It doesn't have a story I care about. I wish it did. That'd be nice, and maybe I'd want to play more missions. But nope. Yeah, pretty much a thumbs down for me. I feel bad saying it, but I would love a really good RPG on the phone. Totally would play something like that, but
I feel like you gave the old college try.
I did. I really did. I feel like I've seen every system in the game right now.
Right, and nothing's compelling you to continue.
No.
I mean, it'd be nice if there was a story to it that would be compelling. But I think aren't the quests something like go and kill like 6 things or whatever and bring them back?
It's all simple stuff like that. And it's typically through repeated areas. It's just not. It's not lighting the world on fire at all.
Right. No. Doesn't seem like it at all. Which
it's just
Fallout 76 and then this, which is still in early access, I know, but.
Yeah.
And nothing on the horizon from them, right? I mean, I guess things are publishing, like Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yeah. I mean, but see, I think
or Doom
Blades
Eternal, I guess.
And then like Fallout 76 was not Bethesda Game Studio proper. Like, it's Bethesda publishing.
Right.
But Bethesda Game Studio is working on that space game. The one that they said was coming before...
Starfield?
Yes. Is it Starfield?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Mm-hmm. The one's coming before Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the main game team is working on. So
that means that they didn't even work on 76 then?
No.
What you're saying?
76 was done out of an Austin company? They bought a company to do it.
Oh, that's right. So,
the main Bethesda Maryland team is the ones that flip between doing the main Fallouts and Elder Scrolls. Is doing the next one would be, I believe, it has to be the Starfield one. No date, but it says Bethesda Game Studio. Oh yeah, Bethesda Game Studio Austin is the one who did Fallout 76, which was founded as Battlecry Studios, whoever that was.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that ZeniMax bought and then renamed Bethesda Game Studios Austin.
Right.
And there's one out of Montreal and one out of Dallas.
Seems like all eyes are on Starfield then, because that's... I don't know, I feel like there's been a few not so hot games coming out of Bethesda, even though it's not their main game studio. So I feel like Fallout 4 was pretty well received, but not as well received as 3. No,
I don't think it was as well received as 3. Although I didn't feel like it was a huge departure from 3 either.
No, it's kind of more the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so interesting, because you have games that are amazing, like, okay, Witcher 3. If they made a game that was more of the same, it would still be awesome, but I think people are also looking for iteration. I don't know, like, don't go into a silo and create your game over 6 or 7 years without seeing some of the good stuff that's coming out from other studios and trying to incorporate that, I think, into your game in some way. I don't know.
And I
I'm not
feel
a game
like
dev.
4 was people. I'll be honest that you had Fallout 3, and then you had New Vegas, which was done by Obsidian, and New Vegas is held up pretty high
Right.
because just the writing and I mean it's 3, but with a really good written story and lots of in a way that's done by the Obsidian team. And I think 4 just didn't have like. There's a number of things that 4 just never took from New Vegas forward. System faction stuff that people really liked, and
Yeah.
And they just basically ignored even the slight evolutions that Obsidian added into the formula there. And yeah, so 4 was fine, but I don't think it's nearly as memorable as
Right,
3 was.
Or New Vegas.
Yeah, which is the problem.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I mean, the next big game that I'm really waiting for is Starfield then from them, which doesn't even have a date. Probably 2020 at earliest.
Oh God, that seems pretty early to me. Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
they've been working on. Jeez, when did they do? No, 2020 should be about right. Fallout 4 was 2015.
Mhm.
That studio makes a game about every 5 years, so
that would make sense just to be, as far as we understand it, the launch of the next hardware console generation. Yeah.
it'd probably bridge the generations too. It probably wouldn't be a next gen exclusive.
I'm looking forward to a lot of games doing that because I don't think I'll be upgrading at the start of the generation.
You have the Pro. So
Exactly.
I'll
So I feel
probably
like I
do
can
the
ring a couple
upgrade at
more
the
years.
start. But
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I can wring a couple more years out of my Pro.
yeah.
So, especially with the VR on it. Although, we'll see what the VR looks like for 5, if they're going to do a new one or not.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a announcement for some form of like PSVR 2 or something.
Yeah, right.
Just a revision.
Yeah.
It's going to be happening at some point. But you're right. They might just wait to do that until the new hardware.
I can almost see them, like, maybe not because that'd be the increased cost, but just putting it all into one box.
I can see them doing a special box
Oh, that makes sense.
that's just like, hey, if you want to pay that ridiculous amount of money, here it is, all packaged together for you.
Right. They don't want to repeat the Xbox mistake of bundling basically the Kinect that nobody wanted.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
few people
And
wanted,
I don't
should
think
say.
the VR stuff will be required ever in the near time. So
No. But man, it's so good. And that Table of Tales
I
game.
want it.
Looking so forward to playing that this Tuesday. They, the code that I have, they were like, oh yeah, we'll give you a code to review. I was like, no, I want to buy the game and support you guys. But I will certainly take a code to give away. So speaking of that, again, I want to say thanks again to Neil Rennison from Tin Man Games. Their Twitter is @TinManGames. Check them out. Their game launches on the 16th. Appreciate his time. And to get into the sweepstakes for that code, all you got to do is take a screenshot, take a picture of your phone, subscribe to Prof and Dev Play Games on your podcast feed, hit it up on Twitter and link or tag, whatever, at me and at him. So at Prof Plays Games and at Summer Speak, and that'll enter you into the contest. We'll run it for a week, and then we will announce the winner on next Sunday's podcast, and of course tell the person on Twitter. So please do that to get a free game. It looks like a pretty badass game. So
Nice.
yeah. Anything else before we wrap up?
Did they say if it was coming to any other VR platforms?
I almost asked him that, but in the press, all it's just PSVR. So I just assumed, I feel like if I asked that question, it would be like, no, we have nothing to announce yet, or
yeah, I'm sure
whatever.
eventually it might. But
yeah, so I just let it go. But in the interview, it was pretty interesting that he mentioned a pretty exciting game coming up that he could obviously make any announcements about. But it sounded like a VR game, and it sounded like a licensed game. So I'm curious, kind of in the way that the Republic devs Camouflage. I don't know what it's going to be, but it sounded pretty interesting, and just the way that the game looks in terms of like a Game of Thrones feel. I don't know. He was very excited. So obviously you've already heard that because you heard the interview earlier. But some speculation there. But I think in the next year or so we'll see. But yeah, they
have a Switch game out too.
They do. The Wizard of fucking something.
The Warlock of Firetop Mountain.
Thank you. Which is based on one of their fantasy fight book games.
Yeah, fantasy by I know who does those.
Steve Jackson, I think.
Yeah, old Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston.
There we go. That's it.
People that made Games Workshop back in the day.
Right. Well, Steve Jackson did what's that game? Newer one.
He's done a
like
ton.
a dungeon crawling game. Ugh,
Munchkin?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, he does all that stuff now, and then he's a very prolific tabletop designer for his entire life.
Well, this Fighting Fantasy series seems like a modern choose your own adventure kind of thing.
It is, because Ian Livingstone, like, that's what one of the things Games Workshop. I have some of them on my bookshelf behind me.
Nice.
Down here, some of his old books that are choose your own adventure with a game kind of mixed in with it. So think of it as single player role playing.
Yeah, definitely. After this interview, I want to check out those books. But then that Wizard of Firetop Mountain is based on one of those books, so that's pretty interesting.
Crazy.
I never even heard it. I didn't hear about it until this interview, and I was like, oh, I should go check that out, because I went and looked at it, and it's like, this looks really good. Looks like something I'm interested in playing, at least.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screenshots right now, and I'm like, oh, this seems like right up my alley. Just a simple RPG with some, like, minor tactical combat going on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's cool. Man, I'm excited for that. Now I want a role-playing game in VR, completely and totally.
Well, I'm looking forward to telling you, because I'm going to play it on Tuesday, or at least it unlocks on Tuesday, along with Dreams, the early access, which I'm also interested in getting. So there's going to be a lot to talk about next week. Including, I'm going to just keep this rolling until it becomes true, including that Nintendo Direct.
Maybe. There's going to be one eventually. We know it.
I know. Eventually I'll be right when I say that.
Although I'd expect one really soon, because it should be lining up with some Smash stuff coming out.
Right. Joker is coming out by the end of the month, so there's got to be something coming up, right?
Yeah, and we only have 2 more weeks in the month.
Which is insane to me. It means I have 6 more weeks of the semester left, which is also crazy.
Which means you can be done and you can play games again a lot.
Oh my god, this semester has been brutal. I've had very little time for anything. Like, when I talk about the games that I've been playing, it's probably a total of like an hour and a half for the whole week.
Yeah.
Wow. It's good. That's, obviously it's my career and that's what I like doing. But so my free time has been squeezed. So, oh well. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Prof and Dev Play Games. It was episode 187. I'm avoiding saying that rap song, which is in my head, 187. Anyway, I can't. It's in my head. So go watch Game of Thrones, and then we will text and chat about it.
Yeah, sounds good. You'll probably be at bed by the time I'm done, though.
Oh, yeah, probably. But my phone's on silent, so feel free to text me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, my friends. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
All right. Later, everybody.